Before we delve into today's deeply unsettling narrative, a word of caution. This story contains extremely disturbing details, including violence, and its conclusion is utterly heartbreaking. Viewer discretion is strongly advised if you're drawn to strange, dark, and mysterious tales. You've found your home with Tangled Logic. We unravel complex and chilling true stories, uploading new content weekly. To ensure you never miss an episode, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on all notifications.
Your support helps us continue to bring these compelling stories to light.
Now let's begin the harrowing account that police in Salt Lake City, Utah uncovered in 2021, when a seemingly playful video on a phone revealed a truth so disturbing it defies belief. On January 28, 1976, Daniel Halseth was born in Estacada, Oregon, a small town about 30 miles southeast of Portland. His family's farm instilled in him a powerful work ethic and a deep appreciation for family. As they all toiled together daily to make ends meet, in high school, Daniel truly blossomed. His vibrant energy and radiant smile drew people to him, and he seemed effortlessly gifted in everything he pursued. He picked up playing the piano and drums, earning him the affectionate nickname Drummer Dan from his classmates. Daniel was also incredibly skilled with computers and technology, and his handsome, athletic build made him someone everyone admired. Despite these many advantages, Daniel faced a major blow in 1994 during his junior year of high school. That year, his father, with whom he was quite close, died unexpectedly from a brain aneurysm. This was a crushing blow for a young man who still relied heavily on his father for guidance and support. However, Daniel, like the rest of his family, found a way to persevere through this immense heartbreak. In 1995, a year after his father's death, Daniel graduated high school and moved to Salem, Oregon. There he earned his bachelor's degree in music, before continuing his education at another university in Salem, where he obtained his master's in business. It was during these years in Salem that Daniel met Elizabeth Schwark, a young woman who had grown up in the city. Elizabeth, like Daniel, was incredibly hardworking and naturally excelled at everything she attempted. She was also a model, and when she and Daniel began dating, they appeared to be a perfect, beautiful Hollywood couple. In 2001, shortly after Daniel earned his master's degree, he and Elizabeth were married. 5 years later, the couple, now proud parents of 3 young children, 2 girls and a boy, relocated to Las Vegas. Daniel had founded a computer IT company that was truly starting to thrive, and many of his clients were located in or around Las Vegas. However, just a few years after they settled in Las Vegas, Elizabeth's career ambitions would take center stage for the family. Elizabeth had always aspired to enter politics, and in 2010, she decided to run for a state Senate seat in Nevada. This endeavor would require an aggressive campaign, meaning she would be away from home for extended periods. Daniel, who was working full-time with his computer company to pay the bills, would also need to become the primary caregiver for their 3 children. When she approached Daniel about her desire to run, explaining the extensive commitment it would demand from him, he was entirely supportive and even excited by the idea. He had no reservations whatsoever. Soon, Elizabeth was on the campaign trail, striving to win the state Senate seat. Meanwhile, Daniel remained at home, joyfully engaging with their children, taking them hiking and frequenting playgrounds and parks. After putting the kids to bed each night, he would stay up late, running his computer business from their dining room. All of Daniel's additional hard work and sacrifice for his wife ultimately paid off. On November 2nd of that year, Elizabeth, having run an incredible campaign built on family values, wholesomeness, and morality, won the state Senate seat. Her victory shocked the state of Nevada, and even more impressively, at just 27 years old, she became the youngest woman ever elected to the Nevada legislature. It was clear to everyone that Elizabeth was destined for greatness. She was poised to become the next big political superstar. Those close to the Halseth family knew Daniel was her #1 cheerleader. He was immensely proud of her. But soon, the Halseth's seemingly perfect life would come crashing down. Not long after Elizabeth's election, Daniel began to notice her suspicious closeness with another man named Tiger Helgalian, a former golf pro and fellow rising political star. After observing his wife constantly texting with Tiger, Daniel directly confronted Tiger, begging him to stop messaging his wife and to leave his family alone. However, the texting, calling, and interactions between Elizabeth and Tiger did not cease. Finally, in October 2011, Less than a year into Elizabeth's first term as a state senator, Daniel discovered that his wife and Tiger had been away together. They had been alone on a long, extended work trip, and Daniel realized with almost certain clarity that his wife was having an affair. When Elizabeth returned home from this trip and was unpacking in their bedroom, Daniel walked in and accused her of being unfaithful. The argument that ensued became very heated but did not turn physically violent. Daniel primarily screamed and yelled at Elizabeth, swearing at her and completely losing his temper. However, at some point, Elizabeth simply said, "Daniel, stop." Daniel, in fact, did stop. Both Elizabeth and Daniel, when later recalling this night, would confirm that as soon as she said stop, Daniel ceased yelling and left the room. Over the next couple of days, Daniel and Elizabeth attended therapy sessions at their church, indicating a concerted effort by both to try and salvage their marriage. However, on October 21st, just 5 days after this major blow-up fight about the affair, Elizabeth went to the police. She claimed Daniel had touched her inappropriately during their argument. To his shock, Daniel was arrested and charged with open and gross lewdness, which is essentially unwanted touching of another person. This accusation is quite common, especially among people drinking at bars where unwanted touching can frequently occur. Interestingly, this particular charge is often cited as one of the more frequently falsely accused offenses. This is because the police do not require any physical proof to make an arrest. In theory, people can get others arrested simply by claiming inappropriate touching. Even without a shred of evidence, it's essentially one person's word against another's. After being found guilty of open and gross lewdness, Daniel was sentenced to 6 months of probation, anger management, and was required to register as a sex offender. Shortly after his conviction, Daniel filed for divorce. Their divorce, which heavily centered on the custody of their 3 children, was extremely contentious, bitter, and very public. Because Elizabeth was a state senator and her election campaign had been built entirely on wholesomeness, family values, and good moral character, rumors of her affair with Tiger Halseth and her husband's charges of open and gross lewdness were incredibly salacious. Despite her denial of the affair and her attempts to portray herself as blameless, Elizabeth was ultimately forced to resign from her state Senate seat in February 2012. The divorce was finalized later that year, and most likely due to Daniel's new sex offender status from the open and gross lewdness charge, he was denied custody of their 3 children. This was despite the fact that for the previous several years, he had been their primary everyday parent. Elizabeth gained custody of all 3 children and promptly left Nevada to move to Alaska with them, to live with Tiger Halseth, the very man she had denied having an affair with. Shortly after arriving in Alaska, she married Tiger Halseth. Daniel was heartbroken. It felt as though his life had imploded in a matter of seconds. Most devastating of all was the fact that his children, whom he affectionately called his 3 little angels, were now so far away that he couldn't even see them if he wanted to. But just as he had done back in 1994, when his father passed away, Daniel found a way to keep going despite the profound pain he was feeling. Over the next few years, Daniel poured himself into his computer business, making it his full-time endeavor, and made every effort to see his children whenever he had the chance. However, due to his poor relationship with his ex-wife Elizabeth, seeing his kids was incredibly difficult. Eventually, Daniel met another woman named Bogdana, and they got married. When this happened, it seemed to Daniel's family that he was finally starting to get his life back on track. Around this time, Daniel began sharing more and more of his life on his social media channels. Nearly every post he made, and he made many almost daily, was overwhelmingly positive and optimistic. These posts truly showcased his wonderful personality, which was all about uplifting others and being a good human being. He also posted loads of videos of himself goofing around with his 3 kids, as they were by far the most important thing to him. However, despite this very cheerful, outward presence on social media, Daniel privately endured yet another very difficult blow in 2019, when his marriage to Bogdana, his second wife, fell apart. And so, once again, Daniel was all alone. His social media posts around the time of the second divorce remained positive and very optimistic for the most part. Yet any time you saw an image of Daniel actually facing the camera, you could just see a distinct sadness in his eyes. But just as quickly as it seemed like Daniel's life was once again going to crumble, something truly amazing happened for him. Daniel's first ex-wife, Elizabeth, and their 3 kids decided to leave Alaska and return to Nevada, resettling in Las Vegas. This move wasn't because Elizabeth wanted to rekindle their relationship with Daniel. It was simply because she and the kids liked living in Las Vegas and wanted to come back. As soon as they were back, Daniel suddenly got to see his kids all the time. He was so excited and incredibly happy. In fact, by late 2020, Daniel's youngest daughter, Sierra, who was 16, had basically just moved in with Daniel, even though, legally speaking, she wasn't supposed to be doing that. Her mother, Elizabeth, was completely unhappy about it. Regardless, that was simply the reality. Sierra was living with Daniel. In August of that year, around the time Sierra had essentially moved back in with Daniel, he decided to take his ex-wife Elizabeth back to court to see if he could gain custody of Sierra. Sierra was the only minor among their 3 children, still 16, and at that point she was already living with him. During the recorded video sessions between Daniel, Elizabeth, and the judge, Daniel told the judge that life in Elizabeth's home was completely toxic and detrimental to his children, and certainly not good for Sierra. Daniel explained to the judge that Sierra was really struggling with some mental health issues. What Sierra needed right then was professional therapy, something he had already enrolled her in, since she had moved back in with him. Daniel also presented to the judge a letter that he claimed Sierra wrote, which essentially supported the idea that she was better off living with her father. Elizabeth generally responded to all of Daniel's assertions by calling him a liar, claiming he was unfit to be a parent, and insinuating that the letter he presented, purportedly from Sierra, was forged because it didn't sound like her. The judge, who at regular intervals grew very frustrated with both Daniel and Elizabeth, finally stated, "Look, you've got all sorts of issues between the 2 of you, and it's creating a horrible environment for your kids. If you don't find a way to come to some sort of compromise, the people that are going to suffer are your kids, specifically Sierra." Finally, in early 2021, when Daniel and Elizabeth still had not reached an agreement, the judge simply ordered Daniel to return Sierra to her mother's residence, as legally, Sierra was supposed to be in her mother's care. So, begrudgingly, Daniel took Sierra and brought her back to her mother's house, saying, "Okay, go see your mother," and then he drove off. But later that night, Sierra would sneak out of her mother's house and just run back to be with her dad. Needless to say, Daniel was not unhappy about that turn of events. The custody battle over Sierra continued to rage for the next several months, Sierra choosing to remain at her father's place despite the court order and her mother pleading with her to come home. Then, in April 2021, something very odd happened. On the morning of April 8th, several $100s were withdrawn from Daniel's bank account from a few different ATMs around Las Vegas. This particular bank account was shared between Daniel and his second ex-wife, Bogdana. They simply hadn't gotten around to relinquishing control to one or the other. These specific withdrawals were uncharacteristic for either Daniel or Bogdana. Consequently, they were flagged as potentially fraudulent, and the banks sent notifications to both Daniel and Bogdana, informing them of the situation. Bogdana received the messages about these potentially fraudulent charges, knew it wasn't her, and immediately called Daniel. But he didn't pick up. She then texted Daniel, but again, received only silence. Finding this a bit odd, Bogdana reached out to Daniel's mother, Christine, knowing that Daniel and his mom spoke nearly every day. She informed Christine about what was happening, and after getting all the information from Bogdana, Christine tried calling and texting Daniel, but still received no response. So, she contacted her granddaughter, Sierra. Christine called Sierra, but she didn't pick up. She then texted Sierra asking to speak to Daniel. Sierra didn't respond right away, but eventually she replied to Christine with a message that simply stated, "His phone has been acting up, but he's okay. It should be fixed by tomorrow night. No worries." Christine was relieved to read that her son and granddaughter were fine, but at the same time there was something odd about her inability to reach her son directly. Sierra was acting a little cagey, not answering her phone, which was unlike her, and then sending a message that didn't quite sound like her. Regardless, Christine let it go, assuming she would be in touch with her son over the next 24 hours. However, the next day, by 10 a.m., when Christine and Bogdana had still not heard from or seen Daniel, Christine again reached out to her granddaughter Sierra. She called her, but Sierra didn't pick up. This time, Christine texted Sierra, demanding that she put her father on the phone. But Sierra did not put her father on the phone. Instead, after a few minutes, Christine received another text message that read something to the effect of, "My dad's in the shower, so he can't talk right now." At this point, Christine's radar was fully up, and she knew there was a real problem. She didn't know what it was, but she recognized a problem, and someone needed to go to Daniel's house to ensure he and Sierra were okay. So Christine contacted Peggy Newman, Daniel's landlord and a close friend, and asked her if she would mind doing a welfare check at Daniel's house. Peggy agreed, saying, "Of course, no problem, but I won't be able to get over there for at least several hours," Christine said. No problem, but as soon as she hung up, Christine was so anxious waiting to find out what was going on with her son. At 1:46 p.m., when Peggy was still out running errands and had not yet conducted the welfare check, Christine simply called the police and asked them to do a welfare check. Like, I need a welfare check. I don't know what's going on. We're doing the welfare check for my son. He's been missing for 2 days. His work's called, his family's called, I've called, his ex-wife's called, and there's nobody answering the phone and nobody is there. There's nothing. Nobody can get a hold of him. And then his work called and they can't get a hold of him, and it's really, he just doesn't act like this. As it happened, just a few minutes after Christine placed that 911 call, Peggy Newman and a friend of hers actually arrived at Daniel's residence ahead of the police. When they got there, they hopped out of their car, walked up to the front door, and as they were knocking, they looked over into the driveway and saw that Daniel's car, a blue Nissan Altima, was not there. They continued knocking, noting the car's absence and the complete silence within the house. Peggy then reached down and tried the doorknob, finding it unlocked. She twisted the knob, opened the door, and she and her friend stepped inside. Just minutes later, Peggy and her friend came running out of the house. Peggy called 911 as the police hadn't arrived yet, frantically tried to describe to the dispatcher what she had just seen. 24 hours earlier, a man and a woman had been spotted on surveillance camera withdrawing cash from several Las Vegas ATMs using Daniel's debit card. These were the very withdrawals that had been flagged as fraudulent and had tipped Bogdana off that something could be wrong. After those withdrawals, the man and the woman were spotted again on camera entering a Las Vegas supermarket called Winco. Inside Winco, they purchased a few items using Daniel's debit card, then left and headed to a Las Vegas Home Depot. There, once again, they were caught on camera purchasing a few items using Daniel's debit card. After these purchases, the man and the woman made their way to Daniel's residence, where they spent the night. The following morning, Daniel's blue Nissan Altima car was spotted leaving Las Vegas at around 10:20 in the morning. This was about 3.5 hours before Peggy Newman and her friend went into Daniel's residence, then quickly turned around, ran out, and called 911. When police finally did arrive at Daniel's residence on April 9th, they pulled up and saw Peggy Newman and her friend, totally ashen-faced and pacing on the sidewalk. The police exited their vehicle, spoke to the two women, and then entered Daniel's residence. There they witnessed the horrible sight that Peggy and her friend had also seen. However, the police could not make sense of what they were seeing. It truly did not add up. Then, 4 days later, on April 13th, police in Salt Lake City, Utah, happened to find the man and the woman who were seen on camera on April 8th, using Daniel's debit card and going to the Winco and Home Depot. The police simply happened to find these individuals on a bus in Salt Lake City. After going through the man and woman's belongings, including their phones, the police discovered a video that these two had taken of themselves in the last couple of days. This video chillingly explained what was inside Daniel's house. Welcome back to our YouTube channel. Day 3, after murdering somebody. Whoa, don't put that on the camera. It was worth it. The young man and young woman you just saw joking on camera about murdering someone were 18-year-old Aaron Guerrero and his girlfriend, 16-year-old Sierra Halseth, Daniel's youngest daughter. Allegedly, on the morning of April 8th, after Aaron and Sierra had pulled all that money out of all those different ATMs, they had gone to the Winco and purchased disposable gloves, bleach, and drop cloths. They then went to the Home Depot and purchased a circular saw, saw blades, and lighter fluid. After these purchases, they headed directly for Daniel's house. It has not been made public what exactly occurred inside Daniel's residence, but we can make a few assumptions. Daniel adored his children. There was no pretense there. He truly loved his children. Therefore, it would never cross his mind that one of his children, or one of their significant others, would ever want to hurt him. So, when Sierra and Aaron went inside Daniel's house, it would have been extremely easy to sneak up on Daniel or simply catch him off guard, because he wouldn't be looking to put up a fight. He believed he was among people who loved and respected him, just as he loved and respected them. However, the young couple did it. They would inflict up to 70 stab wounds on Daniel's body, most of which were in the back of his head. Then, at some point during this vicious attack, they stuffed Daniel into a sleeping bag. Right in the middle of the living room of his house, they doused him in lighter fluid and lit him on fire. It's unclear what exactly killed Daniel, or for how long he was actually conscious and aware of what was happening before he died. But it's very possible that Daniel had at least a small moment in time where he recognized his beloved little angel, Sierra, was actively trying to kill him. After Daniel was either dead or incapacitated, the young couple tossed their pocket knives into the sink. They then retrieved their circular saw, as well as a chainsaw, and began attempting to dismember Daniel's body. However, they were unable to do it, so they simply set the saws down in the middle of Daniel's home, with bits of Daniel's body still clinging to the grooves of the saw. At that point, Aaron and Sierra attempted to destroy evidence inside the house by scrubbing everything down with bleach, but it was totally ineffective. So, at that point, the couple decided they would just burn the entire house down, believing that this would destroy all the evidence. Around the time that Christine texted Sierra and demanded to speak to Daniel, and Sierra wrote back, "Oh, he's in the shower. Can't talk to you right now." That was probably around the time that Sierra and Aaron were actively trying to burn the house down. However, the fire they set was just not very big, and it kind of smoldered out. And so, they would just kind of leave all of the evidence all over Daniel's house. And they would leave Daniel's destroyed and burned body kind of propped up against the door leading into the garage. They would just leave the house, hop in Daniel's blue Nissan Altima, and at around 10:20 in the morning, they would leave Las Vegas. The only reason police were able to apprehend Aaron and Sierra in Salt Lake City a few days later was because the couple had made their way to Salt Lake City and hopped on a bus, and Aaron had not paid the fare. He had just snuck onto the bus. At some point, the transit authority had come through the bus and were asking people to show their tickets. Aaron didn't have one, so when they discovered this, they asked for his name. When they entered his name into their system, it popped up that the Las Vegas Police Department was actively searching for him. While only Sierra truly knows why she turned on the one man who would forever love her and forever support her, what we do know is that around the time Daniel and Elizabeth had gone back to court for those virtual meetings with the judge to decide custody over Sierra, Sierra had begun dating Aaron. She had fallen totally in love with him, and it seemed very much like Aaron had totally fallen in love with her. Somehow, Daniel caught wind of the fact that Aaron and Sierra were planning to secretly run away and move to Los Angeles. When Daniel heard this, he told his ex-wife Elizabeth, and then they went and talked to Aaron's parents. They informed them about this plan to run away. Both sets of parents talked and decided it was in both children's best interest if they stopped seeing each other. So, starting in early 2021, the parents forbade their children from seeing each other, and that was it. However, even though all the parents were involved in this decision, because Sierra was at the time living with Daniel, it seemed like she focused her rage about this decision on Daniel, as he was the one kind of enforcing the rule. And so it's believed that in April of that year, Sierra decided she would just have to kill her father in order to get her boyfriend back. In Daniel's obituary, his family very conspicuously left Sierra out, stating that Daniel was survived by 2 loving children, not 3. His family has also publicly stated that they hope Sierra and her boyfriend are given the harshest penalty allowable by law. Despite the existence of this confession video that Aaron and Sierra took of themselves talking about murdering Daniel, they have pleaded not guilty and are currently awaiting trial. This heartbreaking case continues to unfold, leaving many questions about the depths of betrayal and the meaning of justice. The story of Daniel Halseth serves as a chilling reminder of how quickly life can unravel, and the unexpected sources from which darkness can emerge. We encourage you to share your thoughts respectfully in the comments below. If you found this story compelling, please remember to like this video, subscribe to Tangled Logic, and turn on all notifications so you don't miss our weekly uploads. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay safe.